Uncover the psychology of power, discipline, and silent success. Sometimes life doesn't just break you. It erases everything you thought you were. One moment, you have something to live for. The next, you're staring at the ruins of the life you built. No title, no plan, no direction, just silence, and the question echoing in your chest. What now? There comes a moment when everything falls apart. You lose the job. The person you loved walks away. The money's gone. The routine is shattered. And for the first time, you look in the mirror and say, I don't even know who I am anymore. This isn't motivational fluff. This is not a feel-good speech wrapped in pretty words. This is the brutal and beautiful truth of what it means to start from zero. In this video, we'll walk through the quiet process of rebuilding. We'll talk about psychological clarity, mental discipline, and how to rise when there's nothing left but you. There is a silence that comes after collapse, not the silence of peace, but the silence of absence. Absence of identity, absence of certainty, absence of who you thought you were. When you lose everything, you don't just lose the things. You lose you, the image, the labels, the idea you built in your head about who you were supposed to be. And it hurts, deeply, because we are wired to attach meaning to our identity, to our roles, our status, our income, our relationships. So when those disappear, it feels like we disappear. But here's the truth. Rock bottom is not the end. It's the funeral of your false self, the version of you that was never truly you, only what the world convinced you to be. And when that version dies, it feels like death, but it's not. It's a beginning in disguise. This is called ego death, the slow, painful letting go of the part of you that was clinging to identity like armor. The job title you used to impress people, the lifestyle you used to distract yourself, the approval you used to chase to feel enough. You can't rebuild your life with the same mindset that led to its collapse. That identity must die first. And for that to happen, you must stop pretending everything's fine. You can't heal what you keep pretending isn't broken. So let it break. Let the anger rise. Let the sadness speak. Let the grief move through you. Not just for what you lost, but for who you were before the loss. Grieve that version of you, because only when you grieve it can you begin to outgrow it. Most people try to skip this part. They numb, they distract, they bounce to something new, hoping to feel whole again. But healing doesn't happen through distraction. It happens through confrontation. If you want to rebuild yourself, you must first be honest enough to say, that version of me is gone. And maybe that's okay. Because who you were was not the final version of you. It was a chapter, a layer, a mask. And when everything falls apart, the truth is all that's left, raw, unfiltered, real. This is where the true work begins, not in pushing forward, but in laying to rest what no longer serves you. Let the old self die. Let the old story end. Only then can something real begin to grow. What if the worst day of your life wasn't the day you lost everything, but the day you believed everything you lost was who you were? We live in a world that ties our worth to what we do, what we own, and who we impress. Job titles, relationships, bank balances, followers, reputation, each one becomes a layer. And over time, those layers become a mask. You say, I am a manager. I'm a husband. I earn 6 figures. I have a home, a plan, a future. But the truth is, none of that is you. That's just the costume your ego wears to feel safe in the world. The job can be taken. The title can be stripped. The partner can leave. The money can vanish overnight. If any of those things being taken from you destroys your identity, then you weren't living as you. You were living as a reflection of things you couldn't fully control. You never lost yourself. You just lost the outer shell that was hiding your real self. That shell feels safe until it's gone. And then you're left standing in the mirror, bare and uncertain, asking, who am I without it? This is where real healing begins, not in getting everything back, but in realizing you never needed it to be whole. Carl Jung called this meeting your shadow self, the part of you you've ignored, the part that's been buried under labels and expectations, the part that emerges only when everything else collapses. Most people fear that moment because it's dark, because it's unfamiliar, because it doesn't come with applause. But in that darkness lives something rare: clarity, truth, real selfhood. This is where the shift happens. You move from saying, I lost everything, to, I lost what I was never in control of. The job, it wasn't who you were. The status, just perception. The relationship, a mirror, not a definition. The money, a tool, not a soul. You can lose all of it and still remain. That's where you start rebuilding. From the inside out. From identity, not image. From essence, not ego. No more living to fit a role. No more bending to keep a title. No more basing your worth on things that disappear when life gets hard. Instead, you shift your focus from what the world sees to what you actually are. From how you're labeled to how you live when no one's watching. From image to integrity. This is not an easy path. It requires silence, self-honesty, and the courage to let go of everything fake so you can find something real. You are not what you lost. You are what you choose to build now. From nothing, from truth, from you. There's a strange moment after the collapse. The noise fades, the chaos slows, and suddenly, there's nothing. No distractions, no identity to hide behind, no goal to chase. Just a quiet, empty space inside you that you don't know how to face. This space is called the void, and it terrifies most people, because in that silence, you can no longer run. You have to sit with yourself. No status, no drama, no applause, just you. The void feels like a punishment at first, like life has abandoned you. But here's the truth. The void is not the end. It's the beginning. It's not emptiness. It's pure potential, waiting for you to decide who you'll become without the noise. But most people can't sit with it. The silence scares them, so they rush to fill it. They jump into new jobs they don't love, new relationships they're not ready for, new distractions that feel productive, but only delay healing, rebound decisions, surface fixes. Because feeling something, even the wrong thing, feels better than feeling nothing. But the wise do something different. They sit in the void, they stay, they feel the discomfort, they don't run. They listen to the silence until it starts to speak. This is not laziness. This is not stagnation. This is self-sufficiency in its rawest form. When you stop needing distractions to feel alive, when you stop reaching for validation to feel seen, you begin to learn the most important thing of all. You are enough, even in stillness. Neuroscience backs this up. Studies show that in moments of intentional stillness, when we're not reacting, scrolling, or solving, the brain shifts into something called the default mode network. It's a reset zone for your mind. It's where emotional regulation improves, memory consolidates, and new connections form. In stillness, your brain isn't idle. It's healing. It's untangling what you've been suppressing. It's rewiring your response to stress. It's giving your nervous system a moment to breathe. In silence, your mind is finally safe enough to think clearly, not out of survival, but out of reflection. The void, then, is not a threat. It's a doorway, a chance to rebuild your identity without pressure, without noise, without pretending. This is where real clarity is born. When you've lost the old you and haven't yet built the new one, in that in-between space, you realize something profound. You can sit with the unknown and survive it. You can pause without falling apart. You can face yourself and not run. That's power, not the loud kind, the quiet, unshakable kind, the kind that says, I am not afraid of being alone anymore. I am not afraid of starting again. I don't need to fill the silence. I am the silence. So sit in the void, not forever, just long enough to know you can. Because once you do, you'll never rebuild your life from panic again. You'll rebuild it from peace. And that kind of life doesn't fall apart so easily. When people think of rebuilding their life, they picture a breakthrough, one moment of clarity, one perfect day where everything suddenly falls back into place. But that's a fantasy. Real rebuilding doesn't feel like a movie. It feels like waking up every day and choosing to do one simple thing, quietly, consistently. It feels like doing the small things that no one sees, until you become someone new without even realizing it. The new you isn't built in big moments. It's built in micro resets, tiny actions repeated over time. That's the real transformation. You don't need to overhaul your life. You need to stack small wins every day. Start here. 5 minutes of journaling. Not to sound wise, just to be honest. Dump your thoughts, your fears, your confusion. Make the invisible emotions visible. Writing is how the mind processes pain in a way thinking never can. 10-minute walk in silence. No music, no scrolling. Just you, your breath, your footsteps. Walking clears mental fog. Movement sparks cognitive function. Stillness in motion rewires stress. Make your bed. It sounds trivial, but it's not about the bed. It's about starting the day with control. It's about order in a world that feels broken. That one act sets the tone. I am not done. I still choose order. Drink a glass of water instead of reaching for dopamine. No sugar rush. No comfort scroll. Just hydration. A small act of self-respect. You're telling your body, I care about you. You're telling your mind, we're doing this differently now. In Atomic Habits, James Clear writes, every action you take is a vote for the type of person you want to become, not a goal, not an outcome, a vote. When you journal, you cast a vote for clarity. When you walk, you vote for healing. When you hydrate, you vote for discipline. When you make your bed, you vote for order. It's not about the habit. It's about the identity that builds in the background. These small actions are called keystone habits. Habits that seem simple but trigger a ripple effect across your entire life. Research shows that people who start with one keystone habit, like making their bed or exercising for 10 minutes, often experience better focus, improved mental health, and higher self-esteem across the board. Why? Because their mind starts shifting from chaos to structure, from reaction to intention. And the best part? You don't need motivation. You need a reason. And the best reason is this. You're not trying to do more. You're trying to become again. Not become the old you, not the high performer or the perfect version society applauded, but the real you, the quiet you who keeps promises to yourself, the grounded you who doesn't chase dopamine to escape, the resilient you who rebuilds from integrity, not insecurity. Books like Tiny Habits by B.J. Fogg explain that real behavior change doesn't come from pressure. It comes from simplicity and repetition. The smaller the habit, the easier it is to start. The easier it is to start, the more you show up. The more you show up, the faster you build momentum. And once you have momentum, your self-image begins to change. You're no longer someone who lost everything. You're someone who is building again, not loudly, not perfectly, but consistently. That is the real comeback, not a viral story, not a grand transformation, just one glass of water, one walk, one journal entry, one made bed, over and over again, until one day you realize you're not rebuilding your life, you've rebuilt yourself. There's a moment in every rebuild where no one claps, no one texts you encouragement, no one notices that you're trying again. It's just you and the quiet space between what you say you'll do and what you actually do. That space is called integrity. And in the process of rebuilding yourself, inner integrity becomes your strongest muscle. Not willpower, not motivation, not discipline for the sake of performance, but the quiet choice to keep promises to yourself. That's what most people miss. They rebuild their lives for the external world, to be seen, to prove a point, to get praise. But real power doesn't come from being seen. It comes from what you do when no one is watching. It comes from saying, I'll wake up at 6 a.m. and doing it. I'll go for that walk and doing it. I'll write, I'll stretch, I'll heal, and following through, even when no one knows, even when no one cares. Because in those quiet moments, something sacred is being rebuilt. Your relationship with yourself. There's a quote that says, when you have nothing, your word becomes everything. And it's true. When your job is gone, your title is gone, your support system is shaky. The only thing left to stand on is your word to yourself. And if that's broken, there is no foundation to rebuild from. But if you can make it strong again, if you can say less and follow through more, you become unstoppable. Because inner integrity creates something deeper than confidence. It creates trust. You start trusting your own effort, your own ability to stay committed. You don't need validation to act. You don't need attention to begin. You just do what you said you would do, and with every small follow-through, you begin to rebuild your identity, not based on how things look, but based on who you are. You don't need to tell anyone what you're doing. Let your actions accumulate. Let your life become proof. This is what I call silent power, the ability to move without applause, to build without spotlight, to show up without announcement. It's not glamorous, but it's rare, and it's real. In the early stages of healing, you don't need massive results. You need proof to yourself that you are who you say you are. That's how you earn your own respect back. And without that, nothing else will last. This is your new code. Say little, do much, keep promises, especially when no one sees them but you. Because that's the version of you that doesn't break again. That's the version of you that can't be taken down by loss. Because they're built from something the world can't touch. Self-respect, rooted in action. Every rebuild needs a reason, not a goal, not a reward, a meaning. Without meaning, effort feels heavy, pain feels pointless, and survival starts to feel like a punishment. But the moment you find meaning inside your suffering, everything begins to shift. Psychiatrist Viktor Frankl, who survived the Holocaust and went on to write Man's Search for Meaning, said, "In some ways, suffering ceases to be suffering at the moment it finds a meaning." He discovered that the people who made it through the worst conditions on Earth weren't the strongest. They were the ones who assigned a purpose to their pain. They didn't let suffering define them. They made it part of the story they were building. That's the choice in front of you now. You can run from what broke you, or you can shape it. Pain doesn't disappear when you give it meaning, but it becomes bearable. It becomes fuel. Because now, it's not just something that happened to you. It's something you're using. You must give your pain a role in your story, not as your enemy, but as your sculptor. Ask yourself, what did this breakdown reveal about what truly matters to me? What values survived even after everything else collapsed? What parts of me are still standing? That's the foundation of your new framework for meaning. In the book, The Obstacle is the Way by Ryan Holiday, he writes, "The obstacle in the path becomes the path. Never forget, within every obstacle is an opportunity to improve our condition." Your breakdown wasn't random. It revealed your blind spots. It exposed the illusions you were clinging to. It stripped away the noise so you could finally hear what matters. Maybe it showed you that you were chasing someone else's definition of success. Maybe it forced you to slow down long enough to see the people who truly care. Maybe it taught you that your value has nothing to do with income, image, or approval. Whatever it revealed, use it. Let it become the foundation of the life you build next. Because from that clarity comes motivation. New meaning, new motivation. In Grit by Angela Duckworth, she explains that the most resilient people aren't the ones who avoid failure. They're the ones who frame failure as part of their mission. They don't give up because the path got hard. They expect it to get hard, and they expect that to shape them, not destroy them. This is what you must do now. Your pain isn't in the way of your life. It is your life until you choose to shape it into something beautiful. So take the pieces of what's left and assign them meaning. Turn the loss into a lesson. Turn the heartbreak into honesty. Turn the confusion into curiosity. And most importantly, turn the pain into a tool. Because once pain has a purpose, it no longer controls you. It works for you. This is your new framework for meaning. Your suffering didn't make you less. It stripped away what wasn't real. What's left is what matters. That truth is the seed of your next life. Let it grow. There's a point you reach, after the pain, after the silence, after the slow crawl back to life, where something inside you whispers, it's time. Not time to go back. Not time to be who you were, but time to begin again, as the author of your own life. Because here's the truth. The old chapters are written. The loss happened. The collapse was real. And nothing can erase what you've been through. But the book isn't done. And now, the pen is in your hand. Most people live like someone else is writing their story, their past, their pain, their environment, their critics. They act like they're stuck in a script they didn't choose. But you are not a character. You are the author. You are the one who decides how the next chapter unfolds. And no matter how many pages are filled with loss or regret, you still get to write the ending. You rebuild, not to impress the world, not to prove something to the people who left, not to silence the doubters, not to earn applause, but to meet the version of yourself who doesn't give up. That version of you, the one who rises with quiet courage, who shows up even when it's hard, who keeps their word in silence. That version is worth everything. So what now? You write, not with pen and paper, but with deliberate, conscious decisions. You say no to what drains you. You say yes to what aligns with your values. You create new routines that reflect self-respect. You choose peace over noise, purpose over performance, truth over approval. And slowly, your new life becomes a reflection of who you really are, not who you were trying to be. This is the arc of every real transformation, from pain to wisdom to contribution. You take your suffering, you extract meaning from it, and you give back. Maybe not to the whole world, but maybe to someone who needs your story, to someone who is now where you once were, to your future self, to your family, to the next generation. Pain that gets buried becomes poison, but pain that gets shared with wisdom becomes a gift. The difference between the broken life and the rebuilt life is not what happened to you. It's what you chose to do with it. So write with intention, with patience, with grace, and never forget, you are not the pain. You are not the collapse. You are not the past chapters. You are the author now. And this time, you write it your way. Most people don't fail because they fell. They fail because they keep reaching back to a version of themselves that no longer exists. They try to go back to the old me, the productive one, the strong one, the confident one, the version that had it together. But here's the truth no one wants to face. That version of you is gone. And the more you compare yourself to them, the more lost you become. Every time you say, I used to be so focused. I used to have everything figured out. I used to be better than this. You're not honoring your past. You're chaining yourself to it. That version of you was built for a different time, a different world, a different set of conditions. And clinging to that identity now is like trying to breathe underwater with lungs meant for land. It doesn't work, because the storm changed everything, and you changed with it. Here's the truth that sets people free. if they're brave enough to hear it. To become something new, you must stop worshiping who you used to be. Read that again. The old you might have been successful. They might have been respected. They might have even been happy. But they were also blind to what was coming. That version didn't survive the fall. And that's not failure. That's evolution. The self that fell apart is not the self that will rise again. If you're still measuring your worth with a ruler built for your past, you'll never appreciate what you're building now. Let go of that timeline. Let go of the image. Let go of the pressure to return to a moment that no longer fits you. It's time to evolve, not to survive, but to transcend, to become someone you've never been, someone wiser, stronger, more self-aware, more grounded in truth than performance, more interested in depth than display. That doesn't mean forgetting the past. It means respecting it, and then moving beyond it. Because the final form of who you are becoming can't be built by looking backward. You are not here to relive old versions of success. You are here to write a new one that fits who you are now. You're not behind. You're just rebuilding without applause. You're not failing. You're just not performing for the crowd anymore. And that's why it feels unfamiliar. In a world addicted to speed, noise, and external validation, stillness feels like falling behind. But it's not. It's the most honest place you can be. Because growth that matters happens in silence, where no one is watching, where there are no likes, no views, no praise. Just you, showing up for yourself. You are not lost. You are under construction. The foundation cracked. But now you're pouring new concrete. With intention, with integrity, with quiet power. This isn't the end of your story. It's the part where the real you starts to take shape. Every time you keep a promise to yourself, every time you resist the urge to numb out, every time you move forward, even by one step, you're not just rebuilding habits, you're rebuilding trust. And trust in yourself is louder than any applause. So let the world think you've gone quiet. Let them wonder what happened. Let the silence grow around you, because something sacred is happening inside it. Let your silence shape you before the world sees the result. When it's time, they'll see what you've become. But for now, stay grounded, stay hidden, and keep building, not for recognition, but for redemption. Not to be seen, but to finally see yourself. You don't need to rush. You don't need to prove anything. You don't need to go back to who you were, because the person you're becoming is someone you've never met before, and they're not built through noise, attention, or applause. They're built in silence, in self-respect, in the choices you make when no one's watching. This journey is not about being seen. It's about finally seeing yourself clearly, without illusion, without the roles, without the mask. So if it feels like the world has forgotten you, good. Because in that space, without pressure, without noise, you'll finally have the stillness to remember something far more important. When the world forgets you, that's when you begin to remember who you really are. And that is the beginning of everything.